Hello, you wonderful people. So yesterday, which was Sunday at the time of me recording this video most likely won't go up until Friday, but nevertheless, I watched Ant-Man and the Wasp, so I want to take this video to discuss it. Obviously, do know I am going in full spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen it already, but really quickly, in general, how I felt about it, I think it was a great time. It's kind of interesting, like, I haven't heard everyone's opinion about it, but some opinions I come across, some people are just it's okay, it's alright, which is interesting to me. I guess it's because it's like, for one, it's like, especially because this movie's coming off of Infinity War, and then you kind of go down to a smaller story, like Ant-Man and the Wasp. I guess that's kind of why some people kind of felt like that. I honestly thought it was fun, it was great. Like, I think the Ant-Man movies kind of stand out in their own way in certain regards. I'll probably break that down a little bit more, but in general, how I felt about it, I thought it was a great time. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you check it out. Maybe you won't have the same opinion. Do know that this is just mine, so go ahead and just putting that out there. Now I'm going full on spoilers, talking about everything. I do love that they kind of make Scott kind of suffer the consequences for what he did in Civil War. I do love that. Like, obviously there would be prices to pay, but like, you know, Scott did probably, you know, and he kind of explains it. He's like, I didn't expect, you know, for one, didn't expect to get caught. Two, he wasn't expecting like them to kind of have to suffer the ramifications. It's just kind of like, yo, Captain America comes to ask you for help. And it's like, of course you want to help. I mean, to be fair, Captain America was on the right side of things in this regard. I mean, Tony was on the right side of things too when it came to Civil War 2. They just had two different approaches to the whole aspect to it. Because Cap had brought it up in Civil War, in Infinity War, that both Scott and Hawkeye had both gotten deals, like they were on house arrest or whatever, and it kind of makes sense too because they're the two that do have families they had to really think about. So it's like Scott's already been to jail too, so it's like the last thing you want to do is go back even longer, because this time he would have went away for like 20 years. At the very least, after this deal, he would have gone back for like 20 years, so that would have been even more time away from his daughter, and he couldn't really take that, you know. I thought that was kind of an interesting element, bringing that up, and obviously that being why Hank and Hope were so pissed at him. And I thought that was kind of a neat element of the movie, of him trying to do the right thing. He's kind of screwing up a little bit because he's not perfect. So it's like not every, and I think it is kind of interesting because I feel like well, not all the superhero movies are like this, but certain regards it's kind of like, oh yeah, Cap is just kind of like almost Mr. Perfect. I mean, you almost feel like he never really makes any mistakes because he just happens to be on the right side of things in certain regards, like using Civil War, for example. But it's just interesting to me because I just feel like, you know, I mean, it's also interesting because the whole family element is kind of a part of the MCU, but not everyone really has a family. The Guardians are kind of like a group of misfits that kind of came together and became a family. Thor had a family, which we know currently in their state, they're kind of all gone. And other than that, Scott's really the only one who, you know, him and Spider-Man are the only one that really got to have any family structure at all, so. I do appreciate the fact is that they're not in the movie a lot, but like the aspect of like his ex-wife and her new boyfriend, husband, the cop dude from the first one. And I love it because there's just so much animosity there from before, but now it's kind of like, hey, they never actually give, I mean, at least we don't know within the 2-year period, like whether they've given him any flack for the whole Civil War situation, helping out in that regard. It's like maybe they kind of agree with it being like, yo, Captain America called for your help, but it's like they say in Homecoming, and they bring it up again in Infinity War, it's like he's still technically a criminal, so because of the Accords and everything. But something else I thought they did pretty neat about this movie is the fact is I feel like they definitely played around with the whole like big and small aspect of it a lot more, because now it's like hooked up to like vehicles. The fact is they carry around that little thing of vehicles is like so sick, but like enlarging and enlarging everything, it's such a neat aspect that I feel like they took what they did with the first movie and they bumped it up. Because I said it when I was talking about the recap to Ant-Man, what's the fact of the matter is it's such a unique way of fighting that no other character in the Marvel Universe has. Like, yeah, they have the close quarters combat, but the whole aspect of shrinking and growing and using that to your advantage in battle, it's just such an interesting concept that I feel like not a lot of characters really tackle in the MCU, you know. So I think that's what makes Ant-Man kind of stand out, but also what makes the movie stand out too is the whole aspect of I feel like the first one definitely had like a heist movie feel to it, and I feel like in certain regards this movie did too, so I thought that was pretty neat. I think Hope kills it as Wasp. The fact of the matter is, like, she already had the skills, she already had the training anyway, and now she can apply it in a Wasp suit. And I love the whole aspect of like, oh yeah, Scott, did you destroy the suit? And he's like, yes, that was my life's work. How could you do that? But then later on, it's like, you know, I couldn't do it. It legitimately was your life's work. Like I said, just the action in it is crazy. Like I said, I feel like they fiddled around with it more, especially because now you have two characters doing it. Plus the whole situation with Ghost, which I talked about this when I was watching, when I talked about season 4 premiere of Killjoys. But Hannah John, is it Kamen? I'm probably butchering it on both counts, but the actress who plays Ava / Ghost, I lost because I never saw, like, it wasn't till like much later on when I saw commercials of it that I saw Ghost without her mask on. I was like, is that Dutch from Killjoys? Which is one of the things I best know her from. I did not know this was kind of like a big year for her, because there was like 3 big movies she was in. She was in this, she was in Ready Player One, which I had no idea, and there was something else she did that came out this year. I don't remember. I really like her ability, and I also like it's not just tied to the suit like it is for Scott and Hope. It's like the fact of the matter is she's constantly in flux like that, like kind of like shifting. It's almost like she's shifting frequencies uncontrollably, but her suit kind of helps her regulate it, stuff like that. Also, S.H.I.E.L.D. popping up. It's like, man, you know, you think S.H.I.E.L.D. disappears a little bit in the storyline and then it always comes back in some shape or form. I mean, I guess it also makes sense because they can just keep referencing it. I mean, it's like they're not referencing modern day S.H.I.E.L.D. because it's like, yeah, because everyone acknowledges, like, oh yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. is broken up. It's like, technically it's not, because agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you know, Coulson and the crew are doing their thing, so it's kind of like, it's not, because everyone talks about, oh yeah, when S.H.I.E.L.D. fell apart, it's like, well, S.H.I.E.L.D. technically fell apart, but S.H.I.E.L.D.'s still technically alive, but it's like, hey, TV shows and movies have to do the separate thing. But it's just always interesting to me when stuff about S.H.I.E.L.D. comes and gets reintroduced into the movies and stuff like that. You know, it's never like a big thing, but Bill, played by Lawrence Fishburne, which is kind of interesting when you kind of break everything down, because Michelle Pfeiffer's in this. She plays Hope's mom. She was Catwoman, and currently, like, Lawrence Fishburne is it Perry White in the DC movies? So it's interesting. Now both in Marvel movies. It's a funny thing. I like the whole conversation between him and Scott about like comparing sizes. How tall did you get? 21 feet. You? It's like, no, go on, tell me. He's like 65 feet. It's like, oh wow. And Hope's like, are you done comparing sizes? It's just kind of like, yeah. I love the whole aspect of the well, I'll go ahead and finish my thought. It's the whole aspect of the ex-con Luis and the boys running their own business. Love the whole truth serum scene and just being like, oh, so it's truth serum. It's like, no, it's not a truth serum. It's like, oh, it sounds like truth serum. Yeah, man, that sounds like truth serum. And then like Luis, and I love, they only do it like, technically it's 3 times, but it's all in the one scene, so I don't really count them, but it's like there's breaks in between. But Luis doing his thing for the first movie when he kind of like recaps something in his own way. He did it like 3 times in the first movie. This time he only does it, like I said, it's one scene, but it's kind of 3 different ones, because it's like he starts one, stops, and then starts another one, because I think Dave had said something and it set him off, and then like bring him back and he says this, and it's just like, I love that aspect. Also, is it Walter or Walton? I think it's Walter Goggins, like, who played, it's been so long, is it Boyd Crowder from Justified. I had no idea he was in this movie. That would kind of caught me off guard. I love, like I said, I love that, because I thought Ghost was going to be the main focus, but it's like, while the thing with Ghost is happening, there's also the thing about Sonny and his whole situation of trying to profit off of this whole situation. So it's like, he kind of adds that element of like, oh, this is kind of like a heist movie because you're stealing from him and he's trying to steal from you, and it's like you're kind of calling that mode in like a crime drama where it's like you're also being tracked down by the criminals or gangsters in a type of movie. So he kind of feels that role to a certain degree. And I do like also in this movie we do focus on the quantum realm more. I thought that was kind of neat and interesting. You know, it does have this like beautiful aesthetic to it, because we only got to see it a little bit at the end of Ant-Man 1, but we kind of ventured there a little bit more here and there. I like the whole aspect of like she implanted her like a message, and what it turns out not to be a message, it ends up being like an antenna for inside of Scott's head. I thought that was kind of pretty neat. Then obviously the scene where she ends up possessing Scott, and it's just like, hey there, jelly beans, and then just Scott finally coming back and everything, and he's like, no, not a thing. It's like, hey, how do we move here? And he notices that him and Hank are holding hands. It's just this weird awkwardness. I love it. It's kind of interesting because I think the MCU's kind of done this interesting thing lately where it's kind of made it, you understand why your antagonists are doing what they're doing. I mean, to be fair, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of turned her into a weapon It kind of makes you wonder, was that 100% shield? Because let's not forget the whole Hydra angle. But yeah, she got turned into a weapon, and she just wanted to find a cure for herself, because it's like she's very destabilized, and then the long, like, you know, eventually the suit in the little chamber she goes in wouldn't be enough to stop it anymore. So it's like all she did was wanting to save herself, which you can make the argument, it's like you're selfish, but it's not like in this regard, like, you know, she feels bad for all the stuff she's done in the past. I even thought it was kind of neat when her and Scott first talked. She's like, I'm not gonna hurt you, I don't want to hurt. He's like, are you gonna do the whole like sticking your hand through me to like get to my heart or something? Which I'm surprised she never did that in the movie. Well, I mean, I think the closest thing she did was like she put her fist through Hank's neck. I was like, oh, that's sick. But the fact is, she never did the heart thing. I was so certain they were going to do it at least once because of that aspect. But I thought that's kind of pretty neat. Like, you understand why she's doing it. She's just trying to like do whatever she can to save her life. It's not like she's got some grand evil plan. It's like, no, I'm trying to save my life. I'm dying here. Which, when it was all said and done, like, oh, many different things. It's interesting because Ghost is actually still alive at the end of the movie. Wasn't expecting, because part of me was like, oh, it'd suck if she dies. Like, no, she's still alive. Like, Hope's mom did the whole thing of like whatever it is she learned in the quantum realm was kind of pretty neat. A whole tapping into, like, I don't know, she's changed ever since being in there. I mean, she was in there for like 30 years, so it kind of makes sense. She was able to stabilize Ghost, but it seems like it's only temporary, because they're like, oh yeah, we need to get some stuff from the quantum realm, healing stuff. So it's kind of like, oh, so it must be only a temporary fix, which means her abilities aren't completely gone. So I was wondering about that, you know? And she also has Bill, so she's not alone. I guess he's kind of the closest thing she's had to a dad in a very long time, because we learned about her dad. I'm assuming what Hank said was probably true. The situation of her dad probably was kind of up to no good. And doing that stuff wasn't because Hank stole it away from him, but it was also because like he was just doing some shady stuff. So that was kind of on him what ended up happening. But like I said, that's just interesting. If Ghost ended up surviving, well, Ava ended up surviving everything, then she could potentially be helpful in the future, which obviously I'm gonna just skip to it immediately. Like, I had a thought process that like, oh yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp was going to end with the whole Infinity War situation. Someone in the theater had brought up something, you know, you just hear conversations, like someone had brought up something interesting. Was Scott spared simply because it's like, oh no, like he just happened to not be one of the half of Earth that got wiped out? Or is it because he was in the quantum realm at the time that the snap couldn't affect him? I mean, I don't know, like maybe the quantum realm protected him, or maybe because he was on such a small scale that the snap couldn't, like, the Infinity Stone snap couldn't register him as existing. So maybe because he kind of existed outside of the realm of this reality because of that. I thought that's such a fascinating thought, which could totally be it. But that's crazy. It's like you're stuck in the quantum realm, and like both, like Hope literally just got her mom back. Her dad, and her mom all poof. We don't know who else got snapped too, you know? Which that whole thing does make me wonder what their plans are for the quantum realm in the future. I mean, it is kind of interesting because obviously we're dealing with like the whole multiverse thing, which I would assume the quantum realm kind of falls under that category as well. I wonder what Doctor Strange in any shape or form kind of fall into that, because he's the one that kind of deals on that like cosmic level, I'd assume, but maybe that will just stay at, like, you know, the whole quantum realm might just stay an Ant-Man thing. I don't know, but I wonder will that have any part to play in like Avengers 4, because you, like I said, Scott's still alive. Granted, he's trapped in there. No one knows he's trapped in there, so not unless he tries to find a way out. I mean, to be fair, he came out of the quantum realm himself before, but I mean, I don't know, maybe he could just get out of there himself again, so maybe that's going to be like what his story ends up being. But who knows? Like Hope's mom had talked about it, like being there does kind of change you. So I'm granted she was there for 30 years to kind of do her whole thing, which is kind of interesting, the fact that they choose to kill her, because it killed her. But it's kind of interesting because now that means like what she knows about the quantum realm is gone for now. So that probably could have been something helpful. I mean, you would probably think that Ant-Man would be very useful in the fight against Thanos. Then again, it also depends on what they do. He would have been very helpful getting the Infinity Gauntlet off of him, sure. But at the same time, it's like, you know, the Infinity Gauntlet's broken now. The Infinity Stones are still there, not less. I mean, there's no one else to make a gloves. And once again, it's like we still have no idea how that whole thing's going to really play out, like with the Infinity Stones. Like now that the gauntlet's broken, not unless Thor takes it back to Peter Dinklage's character, the dwarf, to repair it or something. I don't know. And I also brought it up earlier too, we don't know who else got snapped in this storyline which is interesting. I'm talking all over the place. I'm missing out on so many good bits. Obviously, like I said, they played around with the whole growing and shrinking situation, like the whole point where he gets stuck being small. I thought it would have been so cute if he ended up running into his daughter while he was at her school trying to get the trophy in the original suit. I thought it'd be kind of cute, but it never happened. And just like the adorableness to it and stuff. He's like, oh, what was it? You want crackers and juice? He's like, I mean, do you actually have those? Then the whole argument about the desk and everything. It's like, no, we're looking for ghosts. Can't God, like, hope, can't you stay focused? The fact of the matter is we gotta be tracking down something important, like trying to find the lab and everything. And she's looking at him, just like, I'm sorry. I just love his defense mechanism is to try to turn things around on people like that. I wonder, because I guess that's why he kept doing it, because there was that whole thing. I was trying to, yeah, why was Hank being such a dick about the Altoids? And I remember later on, it's like, oh right, their ants are all in the Altoids. And like I said, that's another thing too, like the ants being big, this movie, like I said, they really played around with that a lot, like everything shrinking and growing. Luis wanting that, he's like, oh man, you look good in the suit, and Hope's like, thanks, and he's like, oh, can I get one? You know, doesn't even have to have a lot of superpowers, could just have some, or I could just have a suit. But he kind of gets his moment in the car, he's like, ah, and just like the shrinking, like it's so good. Like I said, no other movie plays with an aspect like that. That's what makes Ant-Man stand out, in my opinion. I also love the scene where when he's Giant Man and he's getting the suit, he's getting the lab bat from Sonny, and he's just pushing him with his big finger. I just thought that was so good. But also when they were on the streets and he's riding that truck like a scooter almost, that was pretty cool. I just said, like, the shifting of sizes, the like her aerodynamics of just like when she's falling back, but she also has the wings. That's such a cool aspect. Like, I love the wings aspect to Hope's suit. There's also this interesting moment when Scott kind of feels like he screwed everything up. I was like, no, stay there. Don't worry too much about the whole thing about getting back to your place in time. It's like, well, technically you needed to because the FBI was there. It's like they were pissed down because it's like, yeah, it's your fault that Ghost and the FBI know where you're at because you ended up telling Luis. And once again, it's just, he's trying to do everything right because it's like, hey, this is my friends. They got this business, which I'm a part of as well. I love the whole, like I said, the whole argument about the desk and everything, but also like I said, he kind of blames it because he's like, yeah, I always kind of screw up. It's like, yeah, but the fact is you're trying to do the right thing is what his daughter says. Also, like, was such a neat thing, the little slide thing. That's pretty cool. That's like major dad bonuses doing the whole like slide and little adventure they had at the beginning of the movie. I thought was pretty neat. I thought it was kind of cute when his daughter was like, you can have a partner. She's like, oh, ho. And she's like, oh, I wasn't really talking about, who were you talking about? And it was like, me. And he's laughing a little bit. She's like, don't laugh at him, kind of being all adorable about it. Which I'm assuming the fact that they threw that line in there, in some point in the comic books, his daughter must become like the Wasp or something. Like they must become like a duo or something at that point. The fact is they add that in, or she might be kind of a similar Ant-Man and the Wasp thing, but kind of something else. Maybe, I don't know. The fact that they added that line kind of makes me think that, but maybe that's just kind of like, no. I mean, that could be them potentially setting it up in the future to be like, oh no, like she will eventually potentially grow up to fill that role. Who knows, you know? So it's kind of crazy in the grand scheme of everything. When you look at this movie as a whole, no one actually died. That's pretty impressive. Oh, I think someone had talked about that before. All like the mass destruction that happened in the movie, and it's like one of those movies where it's like, oh, you're telling me that no one died? I guess it's like when the whole like buildings expand and shrink and stuff like that, and stuff being thrown down, like no one died. It's like a lot of that. I feel like I could be like, I guess the building thing is what I can understand where someone had talked about that. Like they weren't trying to go into spoilers or anything, but like I guess the building thing is one of those moments where like, yeah, someone had to have died, but in retrospect, like no one actually, like at least on screen, died. Like once again, like our main antagonist is walking away, potentially becoming a protagonist. I don't know what Ghost whole situation is like in the comic books. So I don't know if she's an anti-hero, 100% a bad guy, you know. So at the very least, she seems like a bad guy who's, you understand why she's doing it, and now she could potentially be a good guy going forward. Like I said, if she's one of the people that survived the snap, but even beyond the snap, like I even love the whole like Ant-Man and the Wasp will return? Question mark at the end. Also the whole bit where they have that ant taking Scott's place, and it's like, oh, we got your routine down, so it's like, oh yeah, you do this and that. So it's, you know, and Luis is seeing it, he's flipping out, and then his daughter sees it taking a bath, and she's just kind of smiling because she's like, ah! She handled that pretty well, loved it. I wonder will there ever be a point, I mean, well, because Hope has never done it, but I guess because there is such a big downside to it, it's the whole like growing large. I wonder will Hope ever do that? I mean, we've seen obviously Ant-Man do it, but it's like for Scott, like it puts too much strain on him, and he ends up passing out from it because growing to such extent. Like I said, like because he talked about it, he slept for 3 days after what went down in Civil War. But like I said, I'm so interested to see how this all like goes forward, affecting Infinity War. I mean, not Avengers 4. Once again, I know it's an aspect that people probably like. It feels weird going from Infinity War to this. Like I think some people have talked about the fact is that potentially like the quantum realm being set up is kind of the big thing for this movie. But beyond that, like I said, in what regards it'll affect the movies going forward, who knows? Also, like, you know, Ant-Man, even the first one was kind of on a very small scale story to a certain extent, you know, and I think it's a good thing to keep that trend with the movies, even though it's kind of got that weird thing of like, maybe it should have come out before Infinity War, but I think the fact is it does have a grander purpose. I think when we get to Avengers 4, we'll see like, oh, this is why. Maybe even Captain Marvel, who knows? Because that takes place in the 90s, so we're probably dealing much heavier with S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff like that. I mean, that might have stuff to deal with, like, you know, because definitely going to be dealing with S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff like that, because Nick Fury's connected to the whole, like, Captain Marvel thing, so S.H.I.E.L.D. in some shape or form is connected to that. So in what regards that'll be, I don't know. Which I'm assuming they will, at some point, do a third Ant-Man movie. I'm curious what the titling would be for it. I would assume it'd be kind of a smaller scale movie, too. Potentially, I don't know. We would have to see, but I'd like, because I think it's an aesthetic that can really work for Ant-Man being this smaller story, no matter where you put it, you know. But like I said, even though it might have this smaller story, you never know if it has this huge impact later on. So I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. So obviously the next Marvel movie is Captain Marvel's, and then the fourth Avengers movie. So that's not coming out till next year. So we'll have to wait. But I'm very interested to see like how this all ends up tying together, how it technically wraps up in the fourth Avengers movie. And I say obviously the technicality behind that, because it's like, well, it's still going on beyond that. Really, that's all I'm going to talk about in this video. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.